Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 12. Through the power of our unconscious mind, Roberta Fernandez helps her clients overcome health issues such as weight loss and chronic pain. She holds certifications as a hypnotist and certified instructor with the National Guild of Hypnotists and has also earned their complimentary medical certification. Roberta is certified in pain management. She's an NLP master practitioner, a 5-path hypnotherapist, a hypnotic gastric band surgery specialist, and a golf specialist. She's also certified in past life regression. You can check her out on her website, farehypnosis.com. That's FAREHYPNOSIS.com. Based on your bio, I see we have a lot to talk about today. So welcome to the show, Roberta.
Thanks, Ashley.
Now, please take a moment to fill in some gaps from your bio and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a board certified hypnotist, and that is through the National Guild of Hypnotists, which is the oldest and the largest organization in the profession. And I'm also a certified instructor through them. So I teach other hypnotists how to do this work.
Excellent. So how long have you been doing this work?
I'm in my third year of practice. Before that, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. Before that, I was a consultant for businesses. I've also founded and ran a Montessori school for 11 years. And was a certified financial planner a very long time ago. So I've done a variety of things.
Wow. Well, what led you, out of this wonderful background you have, what led you to working with people and helping them have breakthroughs in their health and their life through hypnotherapy?
Well, I went to a retreat that Dr. Brian Weiss gave on past life regression because I was just curious, and it was personal growth. And I wanted more of him. It was an amazing weekend, and he only teaches 2 classes a year now for a total of about 300 people. So I thought, well, he used hypnosis. If I ever wanted a chance of getting in his class, I better learn how to do hypnosis. So at the time, my knees were in really, really bad shape. I really had a hard time walking. And when I got to my hypnosis class, I told the instructor, prove to me this works. Can you get me out of pain? And he said, well, if you want to be, it can happen. And sure enough, I had a session with him, and I never had pain again. And so as I started working and training, people had amazing results with hypnosis. And so I thought, well, there is something to this. And I started working with more and more people, and people started referring me to people. And I eventually had to have both of my knees replaced, and I chose to do them at the same time. And I did not take any pain meds. I just used self-hypnosis. I estimate that was, 180 oxycodone and, Tylenol and whatever else other NSAIDs they would have given me for the pain. And I didn't have to take any. I just used self-hypnosis, and I had no pain. And it was at that moment, that was about a year into working with clients, I said, that's it. I'm going to sign a lease on an office. And I did. The day I could drive, I went and signed the lease, and I've never looked back. So I have grown my one little office practice. Last October, I expanded to a big center, and I have place for 3 other hypnotists besides myself. And I have a big training center. So I have about 2,700 square feet. And the Fair Hypnosis Center came to be in Eden Prairie.
Amazing. Just amazing. There's a statistic that over 70% of adult Americans are on at least one prescription medication, and a significant percentage of that is pain medication for chronic pain.
Yeah, it is true. And here in Minneapolis, the Star Tribune has been running I don't know how many parts it's going to be, but for the last month, every week in the Sunday paper, there's been a big article on another aspect of opioid addiction. And it's unbelievable. When I give my lectures, I take 180 pills and I put them in a plastic bag. And I show people, this is what didn't go in my body. And that has such an amazing impact, because when you're just taking a pill at a time, you don't think about the accumulative effect. And, with opioids, there's chance for addiction, and there's all kinds of side effects. And so, I mean, all the talk about NSAIDs and the damage that they cause, I didn't want that in my body. I was not opposed to taking pain meds. And I told the doctors, if I need it, I'm going to take it. I've worked with clients who have had surgeries and they've taken none. And then I've worked with some where they said, yeah, I took a few the first couple of days, but then I didn't need them. So, the less we have to take, the better. And it's fascinating to me in all these articles that I'm seeing, no one's ever talking about other kinds of what I consider to be complementary options. And the beauty about hypnosis is there's no negative side effects.
Well, and speaking of that, so I really think that Hollywood and Las Vegas has not done your profession any justice.
No, and that's a terrible stumbling block because it's getting better. I think more and more people know someone who's used hypnosis to stop smoking or maybe to lose weight. People don't even have a clue that they can use it for pain or sleep issues or fears. There's so many other applications to it. So my primary objective with everybody that I meet is just dispelling some of the myths and the misconceptions. Because what you see on TV is not what you get. And no, I cannot make you bark like a dog or quack like a duck unless you really want that. And then I suppose that can happen. But, people are very curious about what I do, and that makes it fun. When I go to a networking group, I definitely have the most interesting profession at the table. So, but you're right. There's a lot of misconceptions that have to be overcome.
In your mind, what is the biggest difference between seeing a hypnotherapist versus seeing a counselor or a life coach?
Oh, there's a huge difference. First of all, I don't treat, diagnose, or cure anything. A therapist, and I don't call myself a hypnotherapist. In the state of Minnesota, I'm allowed to. It's perfectly legal for me to do that. But I think it is confusing to the consumer, and it also is a misrepresentation of what I do. I do not do therapy. Therapists work with people that have mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, bipolar, all of those kinds of things. I don't do that. A lot of therapists will send clients to me when they've gotten stuck and they're not making progress. A lot of times hypnosis is the tool that can get to the root cause of the issue very, very quickly. Quite honestly, why all therapists don't know hypnosis is a mystery to me, because it would be a great tool if I was a therapist to have in my toolkit. I am also not...
a life coach.
Like you're a life coach, yeah. A life coach is more about counseling. Well, and I guess that just depends on what kind of life coach you are, because I run into lots of different ones out there. In hypnosis, we work in the subconscious mind. When you're working with a life coach, and for the most part, when you're working with a therapist, you're functioning in the conscious mind. In therapy, when a person gets very emotional, or they're having, they might be crying, if the therapist knew how to use hypnosis, they could really take them deep into their subconscious and get to the root cause. So that's a big difference. They're working in the conscious mind, I'm working in the subconscious, and those two things are very different animals. Our conscious mind is logical and analytical, and it reasons, and we have to figure stuff out. That's what keeps us sane. Our subconscious is almost the exact opposite. It is creative and imaginative. It's the home to our beliefs and our emotions. And so when a client gets really emotional, that subconscious mind kicks into gear. And like I say, if you know how to use hypnosis, you can find out so much more, and the client can be so much better at solving their own problems. And that's another difference between me and a therapist. A lot of times, and a life coach too, people are using those people to help them find answers, to give them ideas and suggestions. I don't do that as a hypnotist. My clients find their own answers. And that is another huge and incredibly huge difference, I think.
That sounds really empowering.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry, but one of my goals with every client that I have is to empower them. Hypnosis is something that is a natural state of mind. We go in and out of trance every day to some degree, usually several times, if not many times a day, depending on your day. And so I teach all of my clients how to do self-hypnosis so that they don't need to be dependent on me. We'll work through the big issues together, and then they have the tool to do that on their own. They know the process that I use because they've been through it, and they know self-hypnosis, so they can put themselves in as deep a trance as they are with me and be able to work on their own stuff, because that's what they're doing here anyway. I just have a process. My clients are figuring it out for themselves. The subconscious mind knows exactly what the problem is, and it knows how to fix it. We just can't do that consciously.
Right. My understanding is that's where the problem lies. Like if we don't know logically or consciously what the problem is, the root cause of the problem, then it would be
Right.
in our unconscious or our subconscious mind.
Right. And so what happens, the reason for that is that when we look at the development of the brain, when from the time we're born up until the time we're about 7 or 8 years old, and I saw this very clearly in my students at the Montessori school. We served ages 3 through 12. So we had 3-year-olds through middle schoolers, and I saw every child go through this development. Around the time of first to second grade, 7 or 8, we start to form what we call the critical factor. And this is a protective mechanism. It's the judgment piece of us. And this is really important that this be here in our brains, because our conscious mind is the weakest part of our mind, about 5%. You might see 10%, but I say 5% of our mind's capacity. So it's the weakest part of our mind. Our subconscious and unconscious make up 95% of our capacity. So if all of this stuff, when we're very young, there is no critical factor. So it's kind of, and you'll hear people say this, oh, kids are like little sponges, and they are. They take everything in, and I mean everything. So if you look at your subconscious mind as a big computer database, literally everything that you've ever heard or seen or tasted or smelled, anything that you've experienced is in there. It's all in there. When that critical factor forms, it stops that process. It all goes in, but the difference is we can't consciously access it very easily. So that's why most of us as adults, we don't have a lot of memories younger than, say, 5. We just can't go back in and get it. And sometimes clients will say, oh, well, yeah, I do have this memory. And then when I ask them, well, is it because you've heard the story, a million times, or you've been shown the picture again and again? Is that where the memories come from? And then it gets a little cloudier. They're like, oh, well, you know what? That might be. I don't know if it's my real memory. And so this protective filter is a benefit to us, because if all this stuff in our subconscious mind kept bubbling up to the surface and we couldn't control it, we'd be crazy. It would overwhelm our conscious mind. But it has a negative impact in that if we ever want to go back in there and look for some of that stuff that might be stirring up problems, hypnosis is about the only way to do that. We have to bypass that critical factor to see what beliefs are in there, what our rules are, what those old memories are. It's kind of like software. You have a computer, you buy a lot of apps over the course of the years, and they just sit there, you use them for a while, and then you don't use them anymore. And then one day you get a new app and you install it, and your computer starts going haywire because there's a conflict. Well, that's what happens sometimes with our subconscious mind. Something will trigger a thought or a feeling, and we may not even know what it is, but it starts to cause problems. And so that's how that works in our subconscious mind.
Right. I mean, this is really speaking to our listeners because so many of our listeners are interested in gaining optimal health. Maybe they have a health issue that they're dealing with currently, or they're just always looking to strive for optimal health. There's patterns that we have in our life that we're so unconscious of that we don't even realize that there are patterns. So it might be a pattern of thought, negative thoughts about ourselves or about situations in our life, about how maybe I'm not good enough, I'm not loved, I can't make enough money, these negative thoughts. And it comes from way back in our past when we're children that we just decided something and then it's
Exactly.
stuck there like programming.
That's exactly what happens. And so when we are little and we're taking in all of this data that is in there, at the time we either don't process it, doesn't have any meaning to us, or it has a very specific meaning. So let me give you an example. Fear is a very easy thing to deal with in hypnosis. Most fears come from when we're very, very young. And the reason for that is when we're very young, we're very dependent on our parents, and it's all about survival. So let's say you have a 2-year-old and he's sitting in his chair, his high chair in the kitchen, eating Cheerios, and mom is putting dishes away in the cupboard. And all of a sudden, mommy starts screaming, spider, 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 and she's going crazy. And then daddy comes running in, and he's got a broom, and they're dancing around that kitchen, going crazy, yelling spider. Well, little 2-year-old Johnny is over here in the high chair going, wow, I've never seen this before. Oh my gosh, mommy's upset, daddy's upset. Spider, I don't know what that is, but I better be afraid of it. Because these are the two people that if they're scared, they're the ones taking care of me, right? And so I need to be scared. And then sometimes, if that's the only incident, it might just go away, or it may not ever rear its head again. But if things are reinforced as that child grows, maybe at 5, he gets bit by a spider and he sees it, or mommy says, oh, that's a spider bite and it's very painful or it itches. That reinforces that belief the 2-year-old had that spiders are dangerous. And you can see where that can kind of snowball with a lot of things. And sometimes the events can be very positive. So for example, they don't always have to be bad things. If I'm dealing with a weight loss client, she might have an experience when she was very young, and this is a real life experience, a client that was very, very overweight and just loved food, and food was comfort to her. And in hypnosis, we found that when she was 5, her parents were going through a very bad divorce. And even though she didn't understand it and they tried to keep it from her, that little ones pick up on all that, believe me, in a big way. And so her aunt came over and took her out to dinner. And it was a very special restaurant. She got all dressed up. And afterwards, the chef came out with his big hat on and his white coat and brought her a special dessert. And it was this beautiful memory. And it was a very loving memory. And it was peaceful at a time when things were pretty stressed at home. And that beautiful memory ended up getting distorted over the years. And this woman now believed that the only way she could find comfort and peace and love had to involve food. And so sometimes those old memories, they serve us really well, but then there comes a point in time where they become an obstacle and they keep us stuck.
Now, speaking of your weight loss client, you have a technique that you teach, hypnotic gastric bypass surgery.
Correct. I just finished a class, and I actually am on my own journey there. I've lost 40 pounds with hypnosis.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have not always been overweight. I was 125 pounds most of my life, and then I got very ill and gained about 70 pounds in 5 months. I had Graves' disease. And so it's been, in the past, a challenge for me to get rid of weight until I found hypnosis. So I just did a gastric, I call it a hypnotic gastric band surgery class. And I designed this class. It's been around for a while, and different hypnotists have a different take on it. I'm not a real gimmicky person, and I always felt it looked very gimmicky. But in the last 3 years, what I have found with weight loss is when people have a lot of weight to lose, it's very hard for them to be compliant to a 1,200 calorie diet or 1,500 calorie, whatever the doctor or your nutritionist decides, because you get hungry. Your stomach is stretched out. It's bigger. A lot of people with a lot of weight to lose, they'll eat 1,500 calories by lunch. And after 3 or 4 days of trying to do that, it just gets really hard. And that was the biggest struggle that I had with my clients. And so in this class, we do a lot of emotional work. We do a lot of habitual work. We do a lot of work around what nutrition is and physical activity and all the things you're supposed to be concentrating on. But one of the things that we do is we apply a gastric band hypnotically. And it's very real. It's like you're having the hospital sounds. The client has to fast a little bit the day they actually come in to do the class. We make it as real as possible. And over that 7-week period, the average person lost 1.6 pounds per week, which is a very good and sustainable way to lose weight. And they were not hungry at all. We imagine just this tiny little ball, and they all get a ball to take home with them, and we anchor it during their session, that all it takes is this handful of food, and I feel full and satisfied. And it was extremely successful. I wasn't sure if I was going to do this, and I've already got 2 more classes on my calendar. It was very powerful. I lost 21 pounds in the 7 weeks. It was very exciting.
I mean, that's incredible. My mind is blown. I'm pretty sure the listeners are freaking out because we don't want to take diet pills. We don't want to, I mean, there's so many ways to decrease hunger. There's something to say about eating healthy and getting lots of proper nutrition. But on a 1,500 calorie diet or 1,200 calorie diet, you can get lots of great nutrition in you and still feel hungry.
Correct. And so this is how this works. A lot of people think it is gimmicky. And it's one of the things I find myself not talking about because, I always try to set very realistic expectation for my clients. A lot of times they'll come in with very unrealistic expectations. So even when they say, I want to lose 2 pounds a week, well, that's great for the first couple of weeks. But it tapers off. 2 pounds a week, if you've got 100 pounds to lose, that is a very challenging goal. And so even at 1.6, the reason why I feel that's sustainable is because people weren't hungry. That's the difference. And the reason why hypnotic gastric band works is that your mind cannot tell the difference between what is vividly imagined or emotionally felt and what's real. And there has literally been hundreds of neuroscience experiments that bear this out. And so when we can vividly imagine and we're in that hypnotic state where we're very suggestible to the suggestions that we want, that's what really makes this so very powerful. We're really convincing ourselves that this is the case.
I love it. And I'm thinking, when we go to the movie theater and there's a scary movie and we're sitting there and we're very safe in the movie theater. Yep. And then Freddy Krueger comes out and our adrenaline is pumping, our heart is racing, we're screaming or we're like gritting our teeth, closing our eyes, hiding our face in our hands. And we're having a very real physiological and emotional experience of something that's imagined, something that is not real. And you're just utilizing what we experience every day when we watch TV or watch movies or read books. I was thinking to myself the other day, I've actually had a fear response while reading a book. I'm perfectly safe in my home, wrapped in a blanket, reading a book. And it's so scary that my heart's pounding, my adrenaline's pumping, and it's a book. I'm just imagining what's going on. So you're utilizing the same mechanism in our mind to help people lose weight.
Exactly. And so hypnosis, there's a lot of different definitions for hypnosis, but for me, hypnosis is a focused state of concentration where you are open to suggestions. And this happens to us. That's why I say people go in and out of trance all the time. When you drive a car, if you ever driven from one place to another and not remembered how you got there, you were in hypnosis. They're light states. We call it alpha trance. When you watch a movie and Tom Cruise is, outside that 100-story building in Dubai and they look down, I had to shut my eyes because to me, it looked very real. Virtual reality, watching television, a movie, a book. It could be gardening. For some people, it's cooking. And basically, they're just so focused that everything else fades into the background. That is a form of hypnosis. And so what I teach people is how to do that in a very intentional way, not only to put themselves into trance, but to do something with it when you're actually there. And you can do this, what I call waking trance. So for example, I had a client come to me. She sat next to a coworker 8 hours a day that had a breathing disorder. And the woman made a terrible sound. And she said, I'm a nice person, but I'm starting to hate my job and I'm starting to hate this woman because it is so aggravating to me to listen to this noise all day. And so I taught her self-hypnosis, how to give herself a suggestion. Before she got out of the car every day, she would tell herself while she was in trance how she wanted to experience that sound. And she, some days it was like softly singing songbirds in the background or classical music, or maybe it was just like Teflon. It just rolled right off and she didn't even experience it. And she was able to do that and be very effective in her job. No one would know that she's in trance. She's just asked a part of her subconscious mind to take care of this for her. And our subconscious mind is doing hundreds of things at one time. On our best day, our conscious mind can handle maybe 7, maybe 9 if we're at our A game. And then we get overwhelmed. But not our subconscious. Our subconscious mind, even just physiologically, all of our bodily processes, there's thousands of things happening and we're not even aware of it. So when we can intentionally induce trance in ourselves and give it the suggestion that we really want to accomplish to ourselves, this is extremely empowering, extremely.
Very. I think in this society, we're taught that we're at the effect of what's happening to us. We have to go out there and find people like you to teach us life skills so that we can be at cause in our life, so that we can be empowered to be in control. Because something like your client, if she hadn't had your help in learning self-hypnosis, she would have either lived years hating her job and resenting her coworker, or she would have left her job. We're allowing these things in our life to affect us like we're the victims, when we
Right.
can learn life skills to be totally empowered at creating the life we want. So this sounds like an incredibly powerful tool, self-hypnosis. I definitely want to have you on again. I've got so many more questions to ask you. And what I'd like you to do to sum up this episode, this interview, is I'd like you to throw down the gauntlet and give our listeners a challenge. What's something that our listeners could do right now and for the next 7 days to improve their health and empower themselves?
Well, I teach everybody how to breathe. And I know that seems cliche, but there's a very physiologically based reason why if you breathe a certain way, it will put you in a very different place. We have a nerve called the vagus nerve in our body. When it's stimulated under our diaphragm, it sends a message to our brain to release wonderful calming chemicals. It stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system. Things like endorphins and oxytocin and serotonin and melatonin. This is our morphine and Ambien and Lunesta and Viagra all rolled into one. And your body is designed to work this way, and it has to. So taking that deep belly breath where it's very, very deep in your diaphragm, holding it, counting in your head as you exhale so slowly from 5 to 1, fast to slow, loud to soft. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. That's the suggestion you give yourself. If you do that 5 times in a row, deep belly breath in, hold it for 2, count like that as you exhale. 5 breaths in a row stimulates that vagus nerve, and you get calm. And the more you practice it, the quicker it happens and the longer it lasts. There's not a single client I don't teach that technique to, and they all tell me, if they practice it, that it makes all the difference in their level of stress and their ability to focus and be calm. So that's my challenge. Practice it. And if you do that for a total of 6 to 7 weeks, then it becomes a habit. This is the exact way I had no pain in my knees after my surgery. I used exactly that breathing technique and attached it to the expectation of total comfort in my knees. And I practiced it for 6 solid weeks, 5 times a day, and it worked. So that's my challenge.
I love it. And I think that we should add on to that challenge that when you get into your car and you put your hands in the steering wheel before you start the vehicle, that's when you do it. And at every stoplight, you do your 5 deep breaths, because then we could completely end road rage.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, so again, it's about the suggestion that you give yourself. So when you count down, you say the word relax, that's what you're telling yourself. If for me, when I did it with my knees, I said the words total comfort. And so that was the suggestion I was giving myself. So when I felt a little something in my knees, after all that practicing, all I had to do was go, or think of the number 5, and that total comfort just came. But my mind had created a habit. And if you go on my website and you look up FAIR Hypnosis, FAIR is an acronym, and it's focus, associate, repeat, and expect. And you'll see why that works. And it's how our mind works. And the breathing is a very powerful technique. Just follow it with whatever suggestion you want.
And then your suggestion, you didn't say like, I don't want pain. I don't want pain.
Oh, no. It's always positive and short. And what you do want, your subconscious mind doesn't, it's very literal, and it does not understand a negative. So if I were to say, I'll never eat cheesecake, my mind hears, I'll eat cheesecake. So you always want we focus on the solution, not the problem. That's another difference of hypnosis. When you go to therapy, you talk a lot about your problem. When you come to see me, I learn enough about your problem for 10 minutes that I know what I'm working with, and then we don't talk about it again. We talk about the solutions that you want, the benefits that you want. And so if we would concentrate on what we do want, your life would be much better.
Absolutely. It just sounds so empowering to see you. I really encourage everyone listening to go to fairhypnosis.com and check out all the wonderful things, all the wonderful trainings. Now, is it all in person? Do people come and fly in and take trainings with you, or is there anything online that they can do with you?
I have done Skype or FaceTime sessions. I don't like to, because sometimes you get cut off, and that's not ever good. But I know a lot of hypnotists who do that. I like the personal connection. Typically when I've done things online, I usually like a first and a second visit, and then we can continue the work much easier. A lot of work I do is emotional work, and you need to be deep enough. And the only way for me to really know that is to be there in person with you. It can be done, but I just like the personal connection, and that's how I choose to have my practice. So the short answer is I can work with clients either way. I've had people come to me and they're from out of town, and they stay here for 3 days, and we just bulldoze through it, and we get it done.
Well, that sounds great, because if you think about it, someone who needs surgery or wants to recover or not be addicted to pain meds, or not get on pain meds so they don't get addicted to it, they would maybe fly to another state to go to the Mayo Clinic or go, to some other clinic or go to a rehab center. Whereas it just makes so much sense to prevent all of that from happening and come see you.
Exactly. And I have worked with pain clients long distance. I had a lady not too long ago in Florida. She was having a double mastectomy. And she called me at the last minute. She heard about me and I did a session with her. I made her a recording and I sent it to her. And it was just a week before her surgery. And she called me. She said her surgeon had never seen anybody recover like she did. And I think she took 2 pain pills the whole time. And not only that, but her whole emotional state around that kind of surgery, which is very emotional for a woman. She felt so confident in her decision to do this. So, it can be, and there have been quite a few pain studies that show that even 15 minutes of hypnosis just before a person's going into surgery makes a measurable difference on their recovery time. My feeling is whatever you can get, let's do it.
I absolutely agree with you. I used hypnosis for labor. And I was in labor for 44 hours, and it really helped me both during labor and also in my recovery. I was up and at it very quickly. So it was wonderful. It was very calming. It really helped me through a lot of my fear around birth and a very long labor. And so I can absolutely attest that that self-hypnosis is fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with all of us. I know you've definitely piqued some interest, and I look forward to having you on the show again. Thank you so much.
Sounds great, Ashley.
How would you like to learn from top naturopathic physicians? Go to freedoctorcourse.com and sign up for the free course that'll email you videos with tips and tricks to achieving optimal health. That's freedoctorcourse.com, freedoctorcourse.com.